The massive monitoring station of the Galactic Trade Council floated silently in deep space, its sensors constantly tracking millions of ships across the galaxy. Inside the main control room, Administrator Krelthak sat hunched over his terminal, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession as he stared at the data scrolling down his screen. Something was very wrong with the shipping reports. For 3 months straight, Krelthak had been watching the same impossible pattern repeat itself over and over. Ships from every corner of the galaxy were changing their routes. Military vessels, cargo haulers, passenger liners, even top-secret government ships. They were all doing the same thing. Instead of going to their own repair stations, they were heading straight for human facilities. This doesn't make any sense. At all, Krelthak muttered to himself, his tentacles tapping nervously against the smooth surface of his console. The sound echoed through the quiet control room like raindrops on metal. The numbers were absolutely staggering. Hegemony war cruisers, built by the most advanced military civilization in the galaxy, were skipping their own state-of-the-art repair docks. Trader clan merchant ships, known for their efficiency and cost-cutting measures, were adding expensive detours to their carefully planned routes. Even the mysterious Shadow Collective exploration vessels, which rarely interacted with anyone, were showing up at human stations. What made it even more bizarre was that these weren't small, desperate ships looking for cheap repairs. These were some of the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, operated by species with technology that made human engineering look primitive by comparison. Yet they were all choosing human repair bays over their own facilities. The heavy footsteps of Commander Velkas interrupted Krelthak's thoughts. The towering insectoid officer approached the administrator's station, his chitinous armor gleaming under the soft blue lights of the control room. In his clawed hands, he carried a thick stack of additional reports. "Administrator," Velkas said, his voice buzzing with the characteristic harmonics of his species, "I've compiled the extended analysis you requested. The situation is even stranger than we initially thought." Krelthak looked up from his screen, two of his eyes focusing on the commander, while the other two continued monitoring the data streams. How much stranger can it get? Half the galaxy is already ignoring their own repair facilities. "It's not just about frequency anymore, sir," Velkas explained, setting the reports down on the console. "These ships aren't just choosing human stations. They're going incredibly far out of their way to reach them. Some vessels are adding entire light years to their journeys, burning through fuel and time just to get to human space." The administrator's tentacles went completely still. In a galaxy where efficiency was everything, where every credit and every hour mattered to the bottom line, ships didn't make unnecessary detours. The fuel costs alone would be enormous. "Show me the worst case," Krelthak said, leaning forward. In his chair, Velkas pulled up a specific entry on the main display screen. "Here, a quantum-class destroyer from the Hegemony's Third Fleet. This ship had 3 different military repair stations within half a light year of its position. All of them were fully equipped to handle any repairs it might need. Instead, it traveled 2 full light years out of its way to reach a small human outpost on the very edge of civilized space." Krelthak's 4 eyes widened as he studied the flight path. The human station in question wasn't even particularly well equipped. It was a modest facility that primarily served local traffic and the occasional merchant vessel. For a state-of-the-art military destroyer to choose it over dedicated military facilities was beyond unusual. It was completely irrational. "What kind of repairs did it need?" Krelthak asked. "Minor hull plating damage and routine maintenance," Velkas replied. "Nothing that couldn't have been handled at any of the military stations it passed by." The administrator sat back in his chair, his mind racing through possibilities. Were the humans offering lower prices? No. The reports showed they were actually charging standard rates, sometimes even higher than their competitors. Were they faster? The data suggested human repair times were average at best. Were they using some kind of advanced technology that others didn't have access to? That seemed highly unlikely, given that human technology was generally considered to be several generations behind most galactic standards. "There has to be something we're missing," Krelthak said finally. "Ships don't change their behavior like this without a reason. Captains don't waste fuel and time unless they're getting something valuable in return." He turned to face Velkas directly, all four of his eyes now focused on the insectoid commander. "Get me Investigation Specialist Mordun. I want her to go to one of these human stations and find out exactly what they're doing that we're not." There has to be some explanation for this madness. As Velkas moved to carry out the order, Krilthak turned back to his terminal. The data continued to stream across his screen, showing more and more ships changing course toward human space. Whatever the humans were doing, it was working, and that made it potentially the most important mystery in the galaxy. A brilliant flash of light filled the docking bay of Meridian Station as Specialist Mordun completed her quantum transport. Her crystalline body sparkled like a living diamond, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the metal walls as she absorbed the station's artificial lighting. As one of the galaxy's most respected investigators, she had solved mysteries that had baffled civilizations for centuries. This human puzzle would surely be no different. Mordun had come prepared for anything. Her analytical mind had already considered dozens of possibilities during the journey to human space. Perhaps the humans had discovered some revolutionary, new repair technique that other species hadn't figured out yet. Maybe they were using exotic materials that enhanced ship performance in ways nobody understood, or possibly they had developed advanced diagnostic equipment that could detect problems others missed completely. She activated her recording systems and began walking through the station's main corridor. The facility looked surprisingly ordinary, clean but not spectacular, organized but not particularly advanced. The technology she observed was standard galactic equipment, nothing that would give humans any special advantage over other species. Her first stop was Bay 7, where, according to the station manifest, a hegemony cruiser was receiving hull repairs. As she approached the work area, Mordun could hear the familiar sounds of metal being cut and welded. What she saw when she entered the bay, however, was anything but familiar. A human technician named Jiwon was crouched beside the damaged section of the massive warship, carefully removing twisted pieces of armor plating. His technique was solid, competent welding, proper safety procedures, efficient tool usage. Nothing exceptional, but certainly professional work that would meet any galactic standard. But then Jiwon did something that made Mordun's crystalline structure flicker with confusion. "I know this hurts, big guy," the human said softly, his voice filled with genuine sympathy as he gently pried away a particularly bent piece of metal. "I'm sorry we have to do this, but it's the only way to fix you properly." Mordun stood perfectly. Still, her analytical processors working overtime to understand what she was witnessing. The human was talking to the ship, not talking about the ship to a colleague or recording voice notes for his repair log. He was actually speaking directly to the vessel itself, as if it could hear and understand his words. "You've been through quite a battle, haven't you?" Jiwon continued, running his hand along an undamaged section of hull plating with something that looked almost like affection. "These scorch marks tell quite a story. But don't worry, we'll have you patched up and ready to go real soon. You'll be stronger than ever." The investigator's mind raced through possible explanations. Perhaps this was some kind of psychological technique to help the human maintain focus during delicate work. Maybe it was a cultural ritual that helped with precision or accuracy, but as she continued watching, it became clear that Jiwon's behavior wasn't calculated or artificial. He genuinely seemed to care about the ship's well-being, treating the massive military vessel like it was a wounded animal that needed comfort and reassurance. "Engineer Jiwon," Mordun called out, her voice creating musical tones as it resonated through her crystal form. The sound was beautiful, but distinctly alien, causing the human to look up from his work. Jiwon straightened up, wiping grease from his hands with a cloth. His face showed no embarrassment or surprise at being observed. If anything, he seemed pleased to have a visitor interested in his work. "Yes? Can I help you with something?" he asked, his smile warm and genuine despite the fact that he was clearly in the middle of complex repairs. "I am Investigation Specialist Mordun from the Galactic Trade Council," she explained, her form shifting slightly as she spoke. "I am here to study human repair procedures. I could not help but notice your conversational approach to maintenance work. May I ask about this technique?" Jiwon's smile grew even wider. "Oh, that? Well, it's not really a technique exactly. It's just, these ships work so hard for us, you know. They carry people across impossible distances, protect them from the dangers of space, bring families. Together help explore new worlds. Seems only polite to let them know we appreciate all that hard work. He gestured toward the damaged hull with obvious respect. This old cruiser has probably saved hundreds of lives during its service. The least I can do is treat it with the dignity it deserves while I'm fixing it up. Morden's crystalline structure pulsed with bewilderment. But it is an inanimate object. It cannot hear or respond to your words. Maybe not, Jiwon admitted with a shrug, turning back to his welding equipment. But I swear ships run better when you treat them right. My grandfather always said that everything responds to kindness, even if we can't always see how. For the next several days, Morden made herself practically invisible as she moved through Meridian Station, carefully observing every aspect of human repair operations. What she discovered challenged everything she thought she knew about mechanical work and professional efficiency. Her most detailed observation came while watching Chief Engineer Minho work on a massive merchant vessel called Star Trader. The I ship had arrived with a failing hyperdrive core, one of the most complex and delicate systems in any spacecraft. Morden had witnessed this exact same repair procedure performed by dozens of different species across the galaxy, and it typically followed a standard protocol. Diagnose the problem, remove the damaged components, install replacements, run basic tests, and send the ship on its way. Minho started the same way any competent engineer would. He ran comprehensive diagnostics, identified the faulty parts, and began the careful process of accessing the hyperdrive core deep within the ship's engine compartment. But then something extraordinary happened that Morden had never seen before. In any repair facility, instead of simply removing the damaged components, Minho began cleaning everything around the work area. Not just the surfaces he needed to access for the repair, but areas that would never be seen again once the panels were replaced. He carefully wiped down conduits that had been dusty but functional, polished internal mechanisms that were working perfectly fine, and even organized tool compartments that had nothing to do with the hyperdrive system. "This is highly irregular," Morden whispered into her recording device, her crystalline form flickering with confusion. "These additional procedures serve no mechanical function whatsoever. They are not part of any standard repair protocol." Engineer Somin, who was working on nearby navigation systems, overheard the comment and looked up from her calibration work. Her hands moved with the same careful attention to detail that Morden had observed in Minho, adjusting settings with precision while occasionally cleaning components that didn't need cleaning. "Maybe they don't serve a mechanical function," Somin agreed, her voice thoughtful as she continued working. "But ships are so much more than just metal and circuits and computer systems. Think about what they actually do for us," she gestured toward the massive cargo hold visible through the open maintenance hatch. "This ship carries families from one world to another. It brings medicine to colonies that need it. It hauls the materials that build new homes and schools and hospitals. It makes dreams possible for thousands of people every single year." Somin's hands moved to a panel she had just finished repairing, and she gave it a gentle pat, almost like someone might comfort a friend. "There you go," she whispered so softly that Morden almost missed it. "All better now. You'll take good care of everyone, won't you?" The gesture was so tender and caring that Morden felt something strange happen to her analytical processes. For just a moment, she almost understood what she was seeing. The way Somin touched the repaired panel was exactly like a parent comforting a child who had been hurt, reassuring them that everything would be okay. But what truly amazed the investigator was that this wasn't just the behavior of one or two individual humans. As she continued her observations throughout the station, she discovered that every single human worker followed similar patterns. They all went far beyond the minimum requirements of their jobs. In Bay 3, she watched technician Young-ho hum a gentle melody while replacing worn power couplings on a small exploration vessel. The tune seemed to help him maintain a steady rhythm as he worked. But more than that, it created an atmosphere of calm and care around the entire repair area. In Bay 5, Engineer Haeon left a small hand-carved wooden star inside a repaired sensor array housing. When Morden asked about it, Hyun explained that it was for protection during long journeys into unknown space. In Bay 8, maintenance specialist Tai Hyun spoke encouraging words to an old cargo hauler that had seen better days. "So you've been working hard for a long time, haven't you?" he said while replacing aged hull seals. "Well, we're going to make sure you're comfortable for many more years of service." Every human worker Morden observed treated their assigned vessels with genuine affection and respect. They didn't just fix problems, they seemed to genuinely care about the ship's well-being and future performance. They cleaned things that didn't need cleaning, polished surfaces that would never be seen, and left small tokens or messages of goodwill hidden in various compartments. It completely defied all logical analysis. According to everything Morden knew about efficient repair operations, the humans were wasting time and resources on activities that served no practical purpose. Yet somehow, their approach felt more thorough and complete than anything she had ever witnessed before. The true puzzle began to reveal itself when Morden started conducting exit interviews with ship captains who were leaving Meridian Station. After completing their repairs, she had expected to hear standard feedback about quality work and reasonable prices, but what she discovered instead left her completely speechless. Captain Throckmet of the heavy cargo freighter Void Runner was her first interview. The massive reptilian being stood nearly 8 feet tall, his thick scales gleaming under the station's lights, as he prepared to depart. When Morden approached him about his repair experience, his entire demeanor changed from businesslike efficiency to genuine enthusiasm. "Best repair work I have ever experienced in 30 years of commanding this vessel," Captain Throckmet declared, his scales actually shifting color with excitement. "Your human engineers are absolutely remarkable, but I must tell you something. Very strange that I cannot explain." He gestured toward his ship with obvious pride and affection. "My Void Runner is running better now than the day she rolled out of the factory. The fuel efficiency has improved by 15%. 15%. That should be completely impossible with a ship this age, and my hyperdrive system has never operated so smoothly. It used to have minor fluctuations that were within acceptable parameters, but now it runs like silk." Morden's crystalline form pulsed with interest. "Are you certain about these performance improvements? Have you verified the measurements?" "Absolutely certain," the captain replied firmly. "I've been flying cargo routes for 3 decades. I know my ship's capabilities better than anyone. Whatever your humans did during those repairs, it was far more than simple maintenance work." This testimony was intriguing, but Morden assumed it might be an isolated case. Perhaps the Void Runner had problems that previous repair crews had missed, and the humans had simply been more thorough. But as she continued her interviews, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. Captain Zara Lin, commander of the exploration vessel Deep Survey, reported similar impossible improvements. "My sensor array has gained sensitivity that exceeds the manufacturer's specifications," she explained, her 6 eyes blinking in sequence as she spoke. "And we can now detect quantum fluctuations at ranges that should be technically impossible with our equipment model." Commander Bexthor, a battle-hardened warrior whose scarred face told stories of countless conflicts, was equally puzzled by his experience. "My warship's defensive systems are responding 30% faster than they did when the ship was brand new," he said, shaking his armored head in disbelief. "The reaction time between threat detection and shield activation has improved beyond what the computer systems should be capable of achieving." But the most bewildering testimony came from Captain Neldar, a grizzled veteran who had been flying through space for over 40 years. His weathered face creased into a smile as he recounted his experience. "My ship has had this annoying vibration in the main engine housing for the past 5 years," he explained, his voice carrying the authority of decades of experience. "I have taken it to repair stations across 12 different systems. Engineers from 6 different species have examined it, run diagnostics, replaced components, adjusted calibrations. Nobody could eliminate that vibration." He paused, looking, almost embarrassed by what he was about to say next. "The humans installed a small wind chime inside the engine housing. Can you believe that? A tiny metal wind chime that makes gentle musical sounds when the air circulation system moves the air around. They told me it would keep the spirits happy and maintain harmony in the engine systems." Captain Neldar shook his head with amazement. I thought it was complete nonsense, superstitious foolishness. But you know what happened? The vibration stopped completely. My engine runs smoother now than it has in years, and that little wind chime creates the most peaceful sound you can imagine. Morden's analytical processors were working overtime trying to process this information. Ships performing beyond their original design specifications after human repairs wasn't just unusual. According to everything she knew about engineering and physics, it was scientifically impossible. Mechanical systems had limits that were determined by their materials, construction, and design. They couldn't simply exceed those limits because someone had been nice to them during maintenance. Yet the performance data was completely undeniable. Every captain she interviewed provided detailed measurements and readings that confirmed their claims. More importantly, the improvements were consistent across every single vessel that had received human repairs. It wasn't just one or two lucky cases. It was happening to everyone. Faced with testimonies that defied every known law of physics and engineering, Morden realized she needed help from the galaxy's greatest scientific minds. Within 2 weeks, she had assembled what many considered the most brilliant research team ever brought together for a single investigation. Dr. Quintel arrived first, bringing with him decades of experience as the technical consortium's most respected engineer. His species had built some of the most advanced machinery in the galaxy, and if anyone could identify what the humans were doing differently, it would be him. He immediately began setting up comprehensive testing equipment throughout Meridian Station. Professor Hexlin came next, her quantum measurement devices filling an entire cargo bay. As one of the foremost experts in subatomic physics, she specialized in understanding how matter behaved at the smallest possible scales. If there were changes happening at the molecular level, her instruments would detect them. Dr. Yinthara was the final member of the team and perhaps the most controversial. As a xenopsychologist who studied consciousness across different species, her presence suggested that this mystery might involve more than just mechanical engineering. Many of her colleagues considered her research to be on the fringes of respectable science. For 3 solid weeks, the team conducted the most thorough analysis of repair procedures ever attempted. They recorded every movement human technicians made, analyzed every tool they used, and examined every material they applied to the ships. They compared human work to automated repair systems, to other species' techniques, and to the original factory specifications of every vessel. Dr. Quintel was the first to report his findings, and his confusion was evident in every word. "The technical quality is definitely good," he announced to the assembled team, "but it is absolutely not exceptional by any standard measurement we use. The humans use completely standard tools, the same welding equipment, diagnostic computers, and replacement parts that are available to every repair facility in the galaxy." He gestured toward his detailed analysis charts with obvious frustration. Their materials are equally unremarkable. Standard hull plating, ordinary circuit components, typical lubricants and sealants. There is nothing exotic or advanced about anything they use in their repair processes. Dr. Quintel paused, his expression growing more puzzled. Yet despite this complete ordinariness in their methods and materials, every single ship shows measurable performance improvements that should not be possible. The fuel efficiency gains, the system response improvements, the enhanced sensor capabilities, none of it makes any engineering sense whatsoever. Professor Hexlin's quantum analysis results were even more baffling. Her sophisticated instruments had detected changes that challenged fundamental understanding of how matter worked. "I am observing minute but consistent structural changes occurring at the molecular level," she reported, her voice filled with scientific excitement mixed with bewilderment. "The crystalline matrix alignments in metal components are improving. Circuit pathways are showing enhanced conductivity that exceeds the theoretical maximums for their materials. Flow patterns in conduits and pipes are becoming more optimized than their original design specifications." She looked up from her quantum readings with an expression of complete confusion. "It appears as if the ships are somehow repairing and improving themselves at a level far beyond what the humans are actually doing. It is as if the vessels are responding to the maintenance work by healing themselves and becoming better than they were originally designed to be. The most controversial hypothesis came from Dr. Yenthara, who had been quietly observing human behavior throughout the investigation. Her suggestion sent shockwaves through the scientific community. What if we are approaching this mystery from the wrong direction entirely? She proposed carefully, knowing how radical her idea would sound. What if the ships are actually responding to the human's emotional input during the repair process? What if consciousness and genuine care can somehow influence matter at quantum levels? The reaction from her colleagues was immediate and dismissive. Dr. Quintel shook his head firmly. Ships are machines, Dr. Yenthara. They are constructed objects made of metal, circuits, and computer systems. They do not have awareness, consciousness, or feelings. They cannot respond to emotional input because they have no mechanism for detecting or processing such things. Professor Hexlin agreed. While quantum mechanics does involve some unusual phenomena, the idea that consciousness could directly influence the physical structure of matter goes against everything we understand about how the universe works. Yet despite their scientific skepticism, the evidence continued mounting that something far beyond conventional physics was occurring in human repair bays. Every test, every measurement, every analysis pointed to the same impossible conclusion. Human emotional care was somehow making ships perform better than their engineering specifications should allow. While her scientific colleagues continued arguing about impossible quantum readings and inexplicable performance improvements, Morden decided to take a completely different approach to solving the mystery. If modern science couldn't explain what the humans were doing, perhaps the answer lay hidden in the galaxy's ancient past. She traveled to the ancient library, a massive repository of knowledge that floated in neutral space at the galaxy's center. The library contained information collected over millions of years from countless civilizations, including records from species that had vanished long before most current worlds had even developed life. Deep in the library's most restricted archives, Morden found herself surrounded by data crystals containing fragments from the progenitor civilization. These mysterious beings had disappeared eons ago, but they were credited with developing the first faster-than-light travel technology that made galactic civilization possible. Most scholars considered progenitor writings to be primitive mythology, mixed with early scientific observations, hardly worth serious study. But as Morden began reading these ancient texts with fresh eyes, looking for any reference to consciousness affecting matter or ships responding to emotional care, she discovered passages that made her crystalline form pulse with excitement. One fragment, written in the complex symbolic language that the progenitors had used, roughly translated to something that stopped her cold. The makers breathe life into the silent metal. Those who craft with pure intent shall hear the void's response. Only hearts that speak to darkness with light shall make the sleepers sing. The words sent electrical patterns racing through Morden's analytical systems. Silent metal could refer to ships before they were activated. Pure intent sounded remarkably like the genuine care she had observed in human repair workers. And making the sleepers sing, could that describe the improved performance that ships showed after human maintenance? She searched deeper into the archives, finding more fragments that seemed to describe exactly what she had witnessed at Meridian Station. Another passage read, "Consciousness flows like water, touching all it encounters. The wise builders know that love shapes more than tools ever could." The idea that consciousness could flow and touch objects, that love could actually shape physical matter, it sounded exactly like Dr. Yenthara's controversial hypothesis about human emotional input affecting ship performance. But this wasn't a modern theory being debated by current scientists. This was ancient wisdom from a civilization that had mastered technologies the galaxy still didn't fully understand. Reference after reference appeared throughout the progenitor texts. They wrote about sleeping vessels that could be awakened by the right kind of attention. They described the breath of makers, perhaps the bioelectromagnetic fields that human workers unknowingly generated while they worked with genuine care. Most intriguingly, they repeatedly mentioned the concept of consciousness shaping matter, as if it were a well-known and accepted principle. The more Morden read, the more convinced she became that the progenitors had known something about the relationship between consciousness and physical reality that modern science had completely forgotten or dismissed as superstition. But the most unsettling discovery came in a warning that appeared in multiple progenitor texts, written with what seemed like urgent importance. When the gift-bearers arise, let none seek to bind or corrupt their talent, for the void remembers all intentions. Morden's crystalline structure flickered with both excitement and apprehension as she processed this ancient warning. The gift-bearers, could that refer to humans and their unique ability to improve ships through emotional connection? The warning suggested that this talent was both precious and fragile, something that could be damaged if others tried to exploit or control it. The implications were staggering. According to these ancient texts, humans weren't just accidentally stumbling onto better repair techniques. They were unknowingly wielding an ancient power that the galaxy's greatest civilization had recognized and respected. The progenitors seemed to have understood that consciousness and genuine care could literally influence the physical world in ways that defied conventional understanding. As Morden prepared to return to her research team with this incredible discovery, she couldn't shake the feeling that the progenitors' warning was more than just historical advice. It felt like a message intended for this exact moment, when the galaxy was just beginning to discover humanity's extraordinary gift. The question now was whether modern civilizations would respect and protect this talent, or whether they would try to exploit it for their own purposes, and what might happen if they chose wrongly. The moment of truth came when Morden made a decision that would change everything. Instead of just observing other ships being repaired, she arranged for her own research vessel to receive maintenance at Meridian Station. This wasn't because her ship actually needed repairs. It was because she wanted to use her unique crystalline abilities to detect quantum-level changes while they were actually happening. Her crystalline species had evolved with natural resonance, capabilities that allowed them to sense electromagnetic fields and quantum fluctuations in real time. It was like having a built-in scientific instrument that could detect the tiniest changes in energy patterns around her. If something unusual was happening during human repair work, she would be able to observe it directly. Chief Engineer Daiho was assigned to work on her ship's navigation array, a complex system that required delicate calibration and precision adjustments. As he began his work, Morden positioned herself nearby and activated her natural sensing abilities to their maximum sensitivity. What she discovered in the next few minutes completely shattered her understanding of how the universe worked as Daiho carefully opened the navigation system's housing and began examining the internal components. Morden detected something that shouldn't exist according to any known law of physics. A subtle but unmistakable bioelectromagnetic field was emanating from the human engineer's hands. The field was weak at first, barely detectable even with her enhanced senses, but then Daiho began speaking to her ship, just as she had observed other human workers doing with their assigned vessels. "Well, hello there," he said softly, his voice filled with genuine warmth as he looked at the navigation array. "You've traveled a long way to get here, haven't you? All the way from the galactic core. That's quite a journey for any ship." As he spoke, something incredible happened. The bioelectromagnetic field around Daiho's hands began to strengthen and change frequency. Even more amazingly, it started to synchronize with her ship's own quantum signature, the unique energy pattern that every vessel possessed, but that most beings couldn't detect. "You've been working hard, taking care of your crew and keeping them safe through all that deep space travel," Daiho continued, his hands moving gently over the navigation components while he spoke. "Let me make sure everything is calibrated perfectly for you. You deserve the best care we can give." Morden's crystalline form began blazing with excitement as she watched the impossible happen before her senses. The harmonic resonance between Daiho's biofield and her ship's quantum signature was creating actual physical changes at the molecular level. Circuit pathways were optimizing themselves, energy flow patterns were becoming more efficient. The quantum structures of the navigation array were literally improving beyond their original design specifications. "Incredible," she whispered, her voice filled with awe as she recorded everything through her natural crystal matrix. You're not just repairing the existing damage, you're actually optimizing the quantum structures themselves. Daeho paused in his work and looked up at her with a confused expression. I'm sorry, what now? I didn't quite catch that. Your emotional state, Morden explained, her excitement making her crystalline body pulse with rapid light patterns. Your genuine care and concern for this vessel. It's creating quantum-level improvements throughout the ship's systems. The molecular bonds are restructuring themselves. The energy flow patterns are optimizing in ways that shouldn't be possible. She gestured toward his hands with amazement. It's completely impossible according to everything we know about physics. But it's happening right here in front of me. The bioelectromagnetic field wasn't just coming from Daeho's hands, she realized. It surrounded his entire body like an invisible aura, pulsing gently in rhythm with his heartbeat. Whenever he expressed care or concern for the ship, whenever he spoke to it with genuine affection, the field would intensify and create even stronger harmonic resonance with the vessel's systems. Looking around the repair bay with her enhanced senses, Morden discovered that every human worker showed similar energy signatures. Each one was unconsciously generating bioelectromagnetic fields that harmonized with their assigned ships, creating quantum-level improvements through nothing more than emotional connection and genuine care. We just fix things the way they should be fixed, Daeho said simply when she tried to explain what she was observing. With respect and attention, that's how my father taught me and how his father taught him. When Morden transmitted her findings to the Galactic Trade Council, the response was unlike anything in recorded history. Within hours, the news had spread across every major communication network in the galaxy. Scientists, government officials, military commanders, and ordinary citizens all learned the same incredible truth. Humans possessed a natural ability to improve technology through emotional connection and genuine care. What happened next surprised everyone, including Morden herself. Instead of the fear, suspicion, or attempts at exploitation that typically followed major discoveries, the galaxy's response was overwhelmingly positive. Species after species issued statements of fascination and respect for humanity's unique gift. The Hegemony Council, known for their military precision and cold efficiency, released an official declaration that stunned diplomatic observers across the galaxy. Humanity's quantum empathy represents a natural phenomenon of extraordinary value, the statement read. This ability deserves study, respect, and protection, rather than exploitation or control. Even more remarkably, the galaxy's major shipping lanes began reorganizing themselves around human space. Trade routes that had been established for centuries started shifting to include stops at human repair stations. This wasn't happening because of political pressure or economic incentives. It was happening because ship captains genuinely preferred human maintenance for their vessels. Captain Throckmet, whose testimony had first alerted Morden to the performance improvements, became an unofficial spokesperson for the phenomenon. It's not about better tools or faster service, he explained to galactic news networks. It's about how the ships feel after human repairs. They run smoother, last longer, and seem somehow happier. At Meridian Station, the changes were immediate and overwhelming. Engineer Hyon-Su, who had been quietly doing her job just weeks earlier, suddenly found herself teaching repair techniques to delegates from dozens of different species. The station's main conference room was converted into a classroom where representatives from across the galaxy gathered to learn about human maintenance approaches. I need to be honest with all of you, Hyon-Su told a group of fascinated alien engineers during one of her first training sessions. This isn't really a technique that you can just learn from a manual or copy by watching someone else do it. It comes from genuinely caring about what you're working on. Commander Velkas, the same insectoid officer who had originally reported the shipping anomaly to Administrator Krelthak, raised one of his clawed hands. But how exactly do we develop such emotional resonance with mechanical objects? My species approaches technology from a purely logical perspective. Sunwoo, who had recently been promoted to head of maintenance for the entire station, smiled warmly as she answered. Start by changing how you think about ships, she suggested. Don't see them as just machines made of metal and circuits. Remember that every ship has carried someone's dreams and hopes for the future. She gestured toward the massive vessels, visible through the conference room's viewing windows. That cargo hauler over there has probably delivered medicine to colonies that desperately needed it. That exploration ship has taken scientists to discover new worlds. That passenger liner has reunited families separated by vast distances. Her voice grew more passionate as she continued. These ships aren't just machines. They're partners in exploration, guardians of life, bridges between worlds. They make the impossible possible every single day. When you really understand that, when you truly appreciate what they do for all of us, treating them with respect and care becomes natural. The transformation at Meridian Station became a symbol of something larger happening throughout the galaxy. Species that had maintained formal but distant relationships for centuries began working side by side in human repair bays. Hegemony military engineers collaborated with trader clan mechanics. Shadow Collective technicians shared techniques with technical consortium specialists. What united them all was a shared appreciation for humanity's extraordinary gift and a genuine desire to learn from it. The galaxy watched in amazement as human repair stations became centers of unprecedented cooperation and cultural exchange, all centered around the simple but revolutionary idea that caring about something could literally make it better. 6 months had passed since Morden first arrived at Meridian Station to investigate a simple shipping anomaly. Now, as she stood in the command center of what had become the galaxy's most important facility, she could hardly believe how much everything had changed. The Harmonic Maintenance Alliance had formed naturally around human space, creating something that diplomatic historians were calling the first truly cooperative interspecies organization in recorded galactic history. Unlike previous alliances built on military necessity or economic advantage, this one existed purely because different species wanted to learn from and work alongside humanity's unique gift. Representatives from 47 different civilizations had signed the founding charter, agreeing to share knowledge, resources, and techniques in the pursuit of what they called compassionate mechanics. The alliance wasn't governed by politics or power structures. It was guided by the simple principle that caring about something made it work better. Morden herself had been unanimously chosen as director of the new Interspecies Engineering Academy, housed in a massive expansion of Meridian Station. The facility now included classrooms, workshops, and research laboratories where beings from across the galaxy could study alongside human instructors. The Academy's curriculum was unlike anything taught anywhere else in the universe. Students learned traditional engineering skills, welding, electronics, computer programming, materials science, but they also studied what the faculty called compassionate mechanics. They practiced approaching their work with genuine care and respect, speaking to the systems they repaired and understanding the greater purpose that each vessel served. The ancient progenitors understood something that we had completely forgotten, Morden explained to her first graduating class, a diverse group of beings representing 19 different species. Consciousness and compassion aren't separate from technology or somehow opposed to scientific understanding. They are fundamental forces that can literally shape reality itself. She gestured toward the massive viewing window that looked out over the station's repair bays, where hundreds of ships waited for maintenance performed by mixed teams of humans and other species working together. We spent centuries believing that the universe was cold and mechanical, that consciousness was just an accident of evolution, with no real power to change anything. But the humans have shown us that caring, respect, and genuine emotional connection can improve matter at the quantum level. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a force that can make the impossible possible. In the Academy's main hangar, hanging prominently where every student and instructor could see it, Captain Neldar's small wind chime served as a symbol of the new philosophy. The tiny metal pieces moved gently in the currents created by the station's air recycling systems, creating soft musical tones that seemed to bring peace to everyone who heard them. The chime reminded them all that sometimes the most advanced solution was also the simplest, treating the universe and everything in it with kindness and respect. Chief Engineer Jiwon, who had been one of Morden's first observations months ago, now served as the Academy's lead instructor in applied compassionate mechanics. Students from across the galaxy came to learn not just his technical skills, but his approach to working with vessels. Even now, as he demonstrated repair techniques to a class of eager students, he still spoke to every ship he worked on exactly the way he always had. "You've done such good work," he said softly, gently patting a newly repaired hull plate on a merchant vessel. "Carrying people safely through the void, making their dreams possible. Rest easy now. We'll take good care of you for many more years of faithful service." The changes weren't limited to Meridian Station. Across the galaxy, ships were running more smoothly and efficiently than ever before. Fuel consumption had dropped by an average of 12% on vessels that received regular human-influenced maintenance. System failures had decreased to almost nothing. Even ancient ships that should have been retired were performing like they were brand new. Most remarkably, ship captains and crews reported that their vessels seemed somehow more responsive, more reliable, almost as if the ships themselves were trying harder to perform well. It was as if the galaxy's entire fleet had been awakened from a long sleep and was now working with enthusiasm and purpose. As Morden finished her evening rounds of the Academy, checking on students practicing late into the night shift, she often felt like the void itself was listening. In the quiet moments between the sounds of tools and machinery, she could almost hear something like a whisper of gratitude echoing through space. Thank you. The humans had given the galaxy an extraordinary gift, not just better ship repairs, but a completely new understanding of the relationship between consciousness and reality. And in return, the galaxy had embraced that gift with wonder, respect, and hope for an even brighter future among the stars.